Hi, good evening, ladies.
Good evening.
How are
Sorry
you?
I'm late as usual. That's my. I have an excuse every night. Believe me, why I'm late. But I'm not going to bother you with all these excuses. Don't want to waste your time.
It's okay.
God bless you. God bless you. Okay, we'll get started without further ado. Okay. Itzhak, what's my excuse tonight? Just in case they ask.
It's all my fault.
It's all my fault. Okay. That's good. You're the fall guy. I like that. The fall. You know what the fall guy is, right? Oh, takes the blame. All right.
We call it the scapegoat.
Okay. All right. Good. So I see that one. See, hey. Does that sound good to you? Okay, sounds good. Okay. No problem. Here we go. So the question is, do we have a tour over here? I'll see if there's a tour. Just 1 second.
We do have a, no, and bakers. Or in Ted Zion. There.
Okay.
Hold on, hold on.
I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, not sharing this thing.
Yeah, we're in a different location tonight, so maybe the internet is working a little bit differently here. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. Yeah, it looks like we finished the tour because I don't have it anymore. So I guess we finished it. Yeah, we're done with the tour. So we'll continue with Yosef. Okay, so it says like this. Right, so it says that if it got ripped in the hole that the tzitzit is hanging in it, ulamata, and below that, im kadama talit tzitzit, if the talit was before the tzitzit, lekera, oto tzitzit, the kol tzitzit, to tear the tzitzit, shaya sham, it was there, b'shata kera, kasher, it's kosher. That's the case. So what's the point? The reason why it's kosher is because the beginning was done with kashrut. It was done with the kosher way. So then what happens is that once it's done in a kosher way, subsequently things can happen, to change the situation, but that stays kosher, even though now the situation is not so good. We talked about this before.
Well, what's the situation? I'm going to get it.
Why
did it rip first? You beg it?
What happened was that he put the tzitzit, and then the hole got widened, got ripped.
Mm-hmm.
That happens sometimes, right? The truth is today it doesn't happen because they have a thick rim around the hole that holds it good. But if it wasn't so thick like that, it would get ripped. So what happens is that now it's not in a good place anymore. It was in a good place, but now it got ripped and it's not in a good place. It's tzitzit. Understand?
It got lower.
Yeah, something like that. We'll see what it is, right? So it says, we already explained this in chapter 11, right? That's what he's saying telling you. Right, regarding that, if they were cut off the hole was widened, as we said, right? And the tzitzit drooped down. Ad shelo nishar bo kishiur min hakeren kasher, right? That what? That even though right now you don't have that minimal amount, right? Which is, as we said, right? This thumb, right? The 2.5 centimeters. You don't have the minimal amount because now it's drooping down. Nevertheless, it's kosher. Why? Because it started off kosher. Right? That's the idea. Okay, very good. You guys hear me okay? Okay, thank God. Baruch Hashem. Thank God.
Yes.
Okay. It's not the
Yes.
best, but we do the best we can. So, okay. So, then it goes on to say, if it got ripped and something remained over a little bit, the tafro, and he sewed it up, and then he put tzitzit. The dat Rashi, according to Rashi, imhu shel tzemer kasher. If it's made out of wool, it's kosher.
Wait, so completely ripped, Rabbi? And he put another tzitzit on it? He fixed it up, fixed up the baggage?
There's something left over there, because otherwise it would just fall off, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
There's something left there,
And then he said
but it's a
that
minimal amount.
he put new tzitzit in.
Right. So it seems like he put tzitzit after. In other words, what happened was that the hole got widened, right? And there was no tzitzit there at that time or whatever, right? And now he's putting new tzitzit. He sewed it up and he put new tzitzit.
So the old tzitzit is off?
Yeah, we don't even know if there was an old tzitzit. That's not the issue. The issue is that now he's putting a new tzitzit, right? It doesn't really matter if there was there or before or not. It doesn't really make any difference anymore. I mean, because he's putting a new one now, right? So according to Rashi, imhu shel tzemer kasher. If it's made out of wool, it's kosher, right? Because we're not really concerned, as we said, right, that he's going to use those strings to make new tzitzit. Why? Because we don't use wool to sew. We don't use wool strings, right? We talk about that. Okay. Then he goes on to say, imhu shel tzemer. We said this, right? It says in the Rosh, Mishum. You want to try, by the way, putting this over there, maybe like on the other side? Yeah, let me see if that works better. Let's see if that works better. Okay. Okay, we'll do the best we can. What can we do? So, right. So, as we said, according to Rosh, Mishum the nifsak leka lemifsele. Just because of the fact that it got ripped, you shouldn't puzzle it. The tefillah havya chibur, because sewing it is called a chibur. In other words, it's totally considered to be one beged. So it doesn't resemble that case where we said in chapter 10 that sometimes you sew something up, you do like a very amateurish job, and because of that, it's not really considered to be sewn up. It's not stable. It's not something which will last. Right? If you remember, we talked about that. So it says over there it's different. Why? So since over there the corner was not ripped, so therefore he reveals his intention there that in the end he's gonna straighten it out again and take off those hems, right? Remove those hems. And if it's made out of other materials, not wool, right? So there, actually, we do sometimes, use those strings to sew things. So then there is a concern about that. So then we're concerned that maybe there's going to be left over from those strings, and they're going to use it to make tzitzit. Right? According to Rav Amram, so in other words, first we covered the opinion of Rashi, right? We just finished that. Now we're saying, according to Rav Amram, that the Rosh wrote, Rabbeinu Yerucham, Nireh de ben shel tzemer, ben shel shamini. It seems that whether it's wool or any other type of material, it's for, he can still sew it up. Teha lo pasal ela mishum zolo nishter torat beged. Because it's only puzzle because there's not enough there material, fabric, whatever, to be called a beged, right? It's not 3 by 3. Halavachi, but if it's not so, mashmat shapir havet filat chibur. If not so, then it implies that it is actually considered to be sewn up. In other words, it's considered to be a real sewing, a real connection there. That's the way it seems according to Nibuk Yosef. According to Rabbi so according to that, if he sewed it first, and then he put new tzitzit there, right? Or he unraveled the old one, and fixed it up, right? Same thing, doesn't make a difference. Kosher, it's kosher. Ben betalit shel tzemer, ben betalit shel shar minim. Whether it's a wool garment or some other kind of material. Miu hecha denikra legamre, but says right Maran that if it got ripped totally got ripped off, the tafro, and then he sewed it, and then he put tzitzit on it. Ikales lisfuke. Then we have a doubt, right? Lekulhu perushe, according to all the opinions. Then maybe right sewing it up doesn't help you anymore. As we said, right? Once it gets cut off altogether, it's like it's not a part of the bigot anymore when you sew it back. You know, remember we said this in that opinion? So this is all going on what we did last time, you know? All these basically going back to those
Right,
those concepts.
remember the question I had?
Yeah.
Rabbi, of making tzitzit out of 2 pieces, and you said that's kosher.
Yeah, that should be fine because that's not exactly what we have here. Here, what we have is that something got ripped off, you know, which is like too small to be a beged, you know. And then he puts it back on, so it's like not there. You know, it's nothing, like insignificant.
If it
You
was
know?
a bigger piece, it's no problem by sewing it up.
Probably not a bigger, probably not a big problem. You know, no, probably not a big problem. Okay, so anyway, right? Let's go to Shulchan Aruch. Hey,
You said like it's a 3 by 3, right?
I'm
That-
sorry.
Something less than 3 by 3 is not considered something.
Right? Yeah, nothing. It's zero. Right? That's what it is basically. Exactly.
Mhm.
So that's the idea. Okay, so let's look at the Shulchan Aruch. Hey. So we're on Siman Tedvav. Shulchan Aruch. Hey. So it says the Shulchan Aruch. Im nikra minekev tzitzit. Right? If it got ripped from the holes of the tzitzit, right? Shatzitzit talui bo, that the tzitzit is hanging on it, ulmata, and below that, right? So in other words, what he's saying is like this, right? To get it straight, we're talking here that not only the hole got ripped, but the whole thing got ripped. You know, the whole piece there, right?
Mhm.
But so then why is he talking about the hole? Because it got ripped like on the level of the hole or below that. So it's very low, like you know,
Mhm.
very low rip there. Okay.
But the hole's not ripped.
I don't know if that really matters, you know. Im kadama talit tzitzit lekera. And so it says if the tzitzit was there before it got ripped, okay, it was there before.
Mhm.
Shoto tzitzit haya sham b'shat hakera. So what does that mean? That tzitzit was there at the time that it got ripped.
Mhm.
It was already there. Kasher.
Mhm.
Why is it kosher in a case like that? So the reason why the Bet Yosef said is because that we go according to the first situation, and then once it deteriorated afterwards, we don't care anymore, right? As long as it started out good, we're good. That's the idea.
Is that a general principle? Rabbi?
It's so you know works many times. That's the idea, right? It doesn't mean that it works in every case. No. Okay, so let's go on. So it says, so that case is kosher. But if it got ripped and something got left over, and then he put tzitzit. If it's wool, it's kosher according to everybody. So we'll try to explain, right, all these opinions now. He's giving, you know, several opinions here. If it comes from other materials, that we do actually sew with those strings of that fabric. According to Rashi, you're not allowed to fix that. Okay? And if it got ripped and he sewed it, so then we have a doubt, right? That what? Maybe it's not kosher, this thing. So let's go over the Shulchan Aruch again one more time. Okay, let's try to get everything down. Okay, so it says like this, right? If it got ripped from the hole that the tzitzit is there and below that, somewhere below, right? So if that's the case, if the tzitzit was there already before it got ripped, the tzitzit was there when it got ripped, kasher, it's kosher in that case. Okay, why is that? Because it started out good. Then it goes on. But if it got ripped and something got left over, so in other words, beforehand, we're talking about that something was definitely left over also, right, in the beginning. That's why it's kosher. Otherwise, how could it be kosher, right? If nothing's left over.
Right.
Ah, wait a second. No. You see, that's the whole thing, right? That the tzitzit is still there. So, you know what we're saying? In the first part, what we're saying is like this, right? That even though he did nothing there, he didn't fix it at all. It's still kosher. You know what I mean? So what's the chidush over there? What's the novel idea here, right? What's the new idea here? What is it teaching you, right? So the chidush is like this, right? That he's telling you that even though now there's not enough distance from the bottom edge of the beged until the tzitzit, this distance has now shrunk because it ripped there. The distance is too short. So that's the thing, right? It's not that the hole got bigger. The beged got smaller. You know what I mean? Because it got ripped.
Oh.
Yeah, you understand?
I see. So,
Yeah, this is a different case.
right.
Okay? So the
So I have
beged
a
got
question.
smaller. Yes, I'm sorry.
So the whole stays the size of the
I
half
don't
of
hear you. I'm sorry. I don't hear you.
Oh,
There's something wrong with the.
can you hear me now? Oh, it's okay. I'll write it. Something is wrong with the audio. That's okay.
1 second. Okay, now?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, so the hole is as the size of the half of the thumb, correct? Where the tzitzit goes. Then the beged-
That half thumb thing is the distance from the edge to the hole.
Oh, okay. To the
That's what we're
edge.
talking about. So now it shrunk
Mhm.
because it got ripped. You know what I mean? So before, I guess I couldn't hear you guys. I'm sorry. I don't know. Okay, I hope you weren't talking too much. Sorry, but okay. I thought they were giving the silent treatment. Okay. Okay. All right. So right, as we said, that so what's the chidush over here? The chidush is that even though he didn't sew it up, he just left it like that, and it's too small. That area is too small. Still kosher. That's what the first part is telling you. Okay, and then afterwards it says like this, right? If it got ripped and got left over something, got ripped, the tofro, and then he sewed it up, right? And then he put tzitzit. So this is a different case, right? Before, in the first case, the tzitzit was already there. That's why it's kosher. No, why does that matter? Because it started out in a kosher state. Everything was good. But here, now we're saying what? That no, the tzitzit was not there. You know, he's putting it on now after he sewed it up.
Mhm.
You understand? So now, well, let's see what the story is over here, right? In this case. So what's the problem? The problem is because since he's putting the tzitzit now, right, we're starting in a non-kosher state, relatively speaking, right? That's the idea. Okay, so it's telling you like this, right? That im hu shel tzemer. So first he sewed it, and then he puts tzitzit. So it's telling you, right? If it's wool, you're good. Why is that? Because Rashi doesn't care about wool, right? In other words, I'm saying it the wrong way. It's not that Rashi doesn't care. We don't, according to Rashi, we don't care. Why is that? Because we don't use wool today to sew. You know what I mean, it's too expensive, whatever it is, right?
What about,
Yeah.
Rabbi, what about this small piece now? And it's reattached to the back end. But we said it's nothing. So it's
Right, but here, I'm sorry, what was that again?
right. So the distance between the edge and the tzitzit got smaller because of the rip.
Yes,
Now he's sewing
but
this
there was no
back up.
tzitzit over here. That's the thing, right? There was no tzitzit.
In this case, no.
Yeah, no
tzitzit,
tzitzit. Yeah.
But he's putting that piece of material back. He's sewing it up. So he's reattaching.
No, it doesn't necessarily mean, by the way, that he's putting anything back.
Oh, he's just putting new tzitzit in?
No, what he's doing is first he's sewing up the tear where it
Right.
got torn.
Yeah.
Right, and then putting tzitzit.
So that's sewing it back in, but it's a small piece.
Right, but in other words, it's not like the baguette came apart. It didn't come apart. Just got torn towards the bottom. Understand?
It has a little rip on the bottom.
Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah,
It's still connected. The bottom is still connected to the top, but it has a little rip.
exactly. It's ripped towards downward.
Yes, towards down. Yes.
Got
There
it?
is a hole right here,
Okay.
right? And there's a hole over here. This is
Right.
tzitzit. So we're saying,
It went down here this way.
oh, but this is
Yeah.
the distance now is smaller than one finger. I thought.
Huh?
There it was like this.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's all the same. It's all the same.
But it went
Yeah.
down. So to rip like here.
Yeah, it could be ripped down. Yeah, like that. Right. So he sewed it up. Right. It also could be like what you were saying.
Okay.
Doesn't really matter. I don't think it
So
really matters.
Sewing this up is not a problem.
Why? Why should that be a problem? It's attached.
Oh, so if it's fully off, that's a
Right. That's
problem.
already a different issue. That's a different issue. Yeah. So we talked about that last time, right? So as we said, right, that im nishta'er meno kol shehu, if something got left over the tofu and he sewed it up, v'achar kach hitil bo tzitzit, and then he put tzitzit. Im hu shel tzemer, as we said, if it's wool, no problem. According to Rashi, right? But the truth is, it's kosher according to everybody. But the question is, why according to Rashi? The reason is because Rashi holds that the whole problem is, that you may come to sew it back up. But here, I'm sorry, not sew it back up. You may use those strings for tzitzit, the leftovers, right? So therefore, here you won't do that. Why? Because we don't sew with wool, and therefore we're not going to use it for tzitzit. We're not going to use those strings for tzitzit. So that's according to Rashi. And also according to Rabbi Amram, it's also kosher, right? No problem in this case. No issue there, right? So that's fine. So you're good, right? But if it's made out of other types of fabrics, right? What does that mean? The strings, right? So let's say it's made out of cotton, right? For argument's sake, right? The cotton strings, okay? So now, so there we do actually sew with that type. We do, right? According to Rashi, now you shouldn't sew this up. Just get a different talit, right? Or fix it up somehow, right?
I know Rishonim actually say for today's age, it's no problem.
I'm sorry.
For today's age, it's not a problem anymore.
Why would we say that?
Who's gonna reuse this material?
Yeah, well, it's a chidush. You know what you're saying. You know what I mean? So you would have to, have some sources for that.
But does anybody say that?
We don't see that. We can take a look, but we can take a look in the Mishnah Berurah maybe, see what it says there, right? But anyway, as we said, right, that according to Rashi, this is going to be a problem. So now, okay, lechatchila, according to Rashi, you shouldn't sew this up. Not a good idea. Don't do it. Now the question is, what about b'diavad if he actually did it? So then what's the din, right? B'diavad, is it kosher, not kosher? So he says, v'im nikra b'tofro, if it got ripped and he sewed it up, so what does he say, right? It's a doubt. We don't know. It's safek, right? Safek. So you got to give this to some, right? Some, I don't know, quasi Jews. We're not real Jews. I don't know, whatever, right? Something like that, right? Give it to the Ger Toshav, maybe, right? Whatever, the whatever, right? Something like that, right? But it's not good for a Jew. This so therefore, don't use it, right? That's the idea. Okay, so that's what we're saying over here. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, let's go to the next one, which is Vav, right? Okay. All right, and we'll finish the Siman. This is the last one in Siman. Okay, so first we'll look at the Bet Yosef. Right, so it says like this in Bet Yosef. Katub Hagot Maimoniot. It says in Hagot Maimoniot. Perek Aleph. This is a Perush on the Rambam, right? Hagot Maimoniot. Beshem Maharam. In the name of Maharam, it says over there. V'yesh lizaher oto shetofrin chatichot me'il bekanfei atalit שלא תהא שום תפירה שתופרין ומחברין אותם לטלית למטה משלוש ולמטה, לא קשר גודל, אלא התפירה התחתונה שבצדדים תהיה בסוף הטלית פחות ממלא כושר גודל, והתפירה העליונה שבצידה השנית יהיו מרוחקים מסוף הטלית יותר משלוש וכתב תומת הדשן. So I'll read this one more time, okay? Let's get it straight. It says like this, right? That it says you should be careful. יש להיזהר, all right? אותם שתופרין החתיכות מאל בכנפי הטלית. So it said, right, there are some people, you know what they like to do? They like to sew pieces, right? Me'il, בכנפי הטלית. Pieces of clothing on the corners of the talit. שלא תהיה שום תפירה שתופרין מחברים אותן טלית. So we don't want, it says, be careful, that there should be no sewing that sews and connects them to the talit. The mata mishalosh ulmala mimale kusha kesha. Below 3 and above the thumb, right? We don't want anything to be sewn over there. Ela tfira hatachtona shebetzdadim tiye besof talit. So it says rather the sewing, the bottom sewing, and also the side should be at the end of the talit, less than thumb, and the upper sewing, which is on the second side, it should be further away than 3. Okay, a little bit hard to picture that, exactly how that looks, but we'll try to figure it out, right? Says to okay, I think she figured it out already. She's looking at me like, oh my God. Okay, so okay. כתב בתרומת הדשן על מה שנוהגים לתפור סביב נקב. So it says, right, regarding that which they're accustomed to sew around the hole, שהציצית תחו בו בחוטי משי, כדי שלא יתרחב הנקב. As we said, right, they make that rim around the hole to strengthen it, right? So in those days, he says, they were making it out of silk. Interesting, right? Today, nobody will use silk for that, right? You got better things to do with that. So, this way the tzitzit won't move around, right? To go from here, there. Then so there's no problem with that. In other words, there's no problem with the fact that they were sewing that area. We spoke about this before, actually. Mishum toch shalosh lo yitfor, because we have this issue of not sewing within 3 fingers. Because according to Rav Amram, כיוון שהטלית שלה שלם, since the talit is full, complete, ואינו תופרה, and he's not sewing it, אלא כדי לחזק הנקב, he's just doing to strengthen the whole. But the talit is not being cut, or whatever, changed, altered. לא שייך טעמה, so therefore it's not relevant here, the reason to command the pasik dama, it's considered like it's already like ripped off. That was the reason of Rav Amram. According to Rashi, he says, כיוון שתופר talit של צמר במשי, since he's sewing a talit which is made out of wool with silk, שאינו ראוי לציצית, which is not fitting for tzitzit, שרה. Oh. I'm sorry? Allowed.
Oh.
It's allowed. So now here's the thing, right? From here, by the way, you see something which may answer your question. He's telling you like this, right? That since you're using, well, actually no, but he was telling you like this, right? Since you're using silk threads to strengthen this whole, therefore the reason of Rashi doesn't apply here. And also the reason of Ram Amram doesn't apply. So therefore, right, according to both of them, strengthening this hole with some kind of a nice thick rim, there's no issue whatsoever, no problem whatsoever. That's what he's telling you. Okay, let's go on a little bit. So then he says, Maharam yesh lomar, and then he says that regarding what Maharam said, there is to say the Arab talit shel meshi. He's talking about a talit which is made out of silk, the tofer piskei me'il, and he's sewing the parts of that robe, whatever, that cloak, the meshi, all right, he's sewing it with silk, the chutat tfila mimina talit, because what he's doing is he's using the same thread as the fabric of the talit itself. So therefore, there is concern. Maybe he's going to combine it with the other threads of the tzitzit. So in other words, he's trying to tell you, right? According to Rashi, there seems to be a problem with that. I'll read that again one more time. Okay, a little bit confusing. So it says, Maharam yesh lomar de'ayre talit shel meshi. That which Maharam said, it's talking about. There is to say that we're talking about a silk garment. I'm sorry, not a garment, but a talit, right? Whatever. Talit made out of silk. The tofer piskei me'il bemeshi. So he's also sewing the threads with silk. So therefore, it's really one material there, right? Everything is one. So therefore, according to Rashi, there's a concern over here, right? Why? Because it's the same thread, right? So you can make tzitzit with that.
Oh, I thought
you know what I mean?
I thought the problem is you haven't finished the baguette yet, and then you're putting the tzitzit over it.
No, it's telling you, right? The fact that you haven't used the thread, you could use the thread because it's the same material. So therefore, according to Rashi, there's a problem there. You know what I mean? You're not supposed to do that because you may come to make tzitzit out of that.
Right.
Okay, so then katuv od b'tumat hadeshen. Then he says further what's written in tumat hadeshen. Denireh dafilu im tofer talit shel meshi. Even if he's sewing a talit which is made out of silk, bechutim shel meshi, with strings of silk also. Ela shetzruim achutim adom. Oh, so now it tells you, right? But you know what it is? The strings are red, or yarok, or green, right? Whatever, yellow. And leakpid. So this is no problem. In a case like that, there's no problem with that. In a case like that, why? So he says, you know why? Because they're colored, these strings. So, and we only use white tzitzit today, so therefore nobody does that today. So that answers your question already. Coming to answer your question, you know what I mean? In other words, whenever it's not relevant to that it may happen, such a thing like that, right? We're not. There's no problem. So here it's not relevant because of the fact that the string has colors, and tzitzit is only made out of white, so it's not relevant. Doesn't you understand?
But the fact that who won't we use something like from sewing?
So therefore, if you're using right the strings which are made out of colored strings, like most of them are today, it's like some kind of color. But the truth is, when you're sewing up something white, you're gonna sew it up with white. That's the whole point, right? Okay, well, okay. Otherwise, it's gonna look pretty silly, right? Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, that sounds like something I would do, sew it up with colors, look like a Martian. Okay, so yeah, well, that's my skills in sewing. אבל לא צבועים, ואפילו בטלית קטן שהוא ממין צבעים, לא ראיתי מימי אחד שהיה מצויץ רק בציצית לבן. So he says everybody today is using white tzitzit, So who's gonna now start using colors, Give me a break, right? ולא צבוע, no colors there. ואף אגב אין כבדה בצבע כלל, and even though he says really there's no halachic issue there, problem to use colors. You want to say something? Even though there's no halachic issue to use colors, you know what I mean? But nobody does it, that's the whole thing, right? Just nobody does that. Since the custom is not so, he says, so therefore we have there's no reason to decree anything there. According to Rashi. Maybe he's gonna put it together with the strings. Okay, so that's the Beit Yosef. We're finished with Beit Yosef. Okay, let's go to Shulchan Aruch and finish this chapter for once and for all. Okay, here we go. So it says, right? We're in Vav, right? Hatofer chatichat beged bekanfer talit. So what he's doing is here, right? He's sewing some kind of a piece of fabric on to the corners of the talit, right? I guess he's doing that for beauty or for reinforcement, to reinforce it, something like that, right? Aesthetics, whatever, right? Something, whatever, right? All kinds of fashion things going on there. You know how it is, right? All kinds of fashion. וכן מה שנוהגים לתפור סביב הנקב שהציצית בו עם הטלית של משי ותופרו בחוץ משי. So he says like this, that if the talit is made out of silk and also the strings are silk, right? The tofro bechutz meshi lavan, and it's white silk, right? As we said, right? If it's not white, we don't really care because nobody uses that for tzitzit, right? Yesh lachush ledavar ledat Rashi. So it says according to Rashi, we shouldn't do that, right? By the way, today nobody does these kinds of things. Who's making the talit out of silk? Far-fetched stuff, right? Maybe a scarf, that's about it, right?
Yeah.
A scarf, okay, but not talit, right?
I think they sell them.
They sell, okay.
In Israel, they make a silk ones.
Oh, wow, I never saw that.
There's a shop,
Actually, I never saw that.
online shop. They ship
Interesting.
them as well.
Interesting. Okay, very, very interesting. So anyway, right, that's the idea. So according to Rashi, there's going to be a problem only in that case, where we have the same material as the talit, the strings, and also the same color as well, right? But as we said, right, the truth is it only applies to what? To white strings. If the strings are not white, no problem.
Not gonna use them.
That's it. So from this, by the way, you could already make all kinds of chidushim in modern halacha. You know what I mean? Apply this concept to our things today. I mean, as you said, many things will not apply because of that. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can make all these excuses. It's not the same color. It's not wool. Blah 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 blah. So then you're gonna be doing all right. You know what I mean? But here's the thing, right? You have to cover both. You have to cover both opinion Rashi and also opinion Rambam. Two different opinions, So when you look at this sugya, you have to cover both because we're concerned about both of them. We're not really sure which one is the halacha. You know what I mean? So therefore, we wanna the chatchila, right? Fulfill both opinions. Mm-hmm. Okay. Good. So let's go on a little bit. So look what it says. According to Rashi, we don't want any sewing. We don't want any sewing in a case like that we mentioned below the thumb and above 3, right?
Mm-hmm. So don't touch the area, the corner. Where it sits.
Right, exactly. In the area of the tzitzit, right? We don't want any stuff going on there. But around it, no problem, right? Around, no problem. Why is that, by the way? What's the reason why? Because if he does it around it, it's not the place of tzitzit. We're not concerned that he's going to use it for tzitzit, I guess. That's the reason why. You know what I mean? The only time we're going to be concerned that he's going to use it for tzitzit is only if it's only in the place of the tzitzit.
Why?
Good question. Why is that?
He's gonna take the strings. The leftover, it doesn't matter if you do it up here, just do it up here, this is the area.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Because I think, that the whole, if I remember correctly, maybe I'm mistaken, but I think that the whole premise over here is like this, the premise is that he's not going to cut off those strings, what he's going to do is leave them like attached and use them. You know what I mean? That's really the reason why. Now it fits in, right?
Oh,
You understand?
that's not even kosher though.
Huh?
That's kosher? They're not cut.
They're not cut. Okay, that's a whole discussion in itself, right? Does it have to be cut? Doesn't have to be cut, whatever. But anyway, right? That's the whole point, right? It's not going to be kosher. That's the whole point. We don't want that. So if we don't want a person to use this kind of tzitzit,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? So okay, interesting. Yeah, it requires a little bit more attention. This is what you're asking about.
Yeah. I don't know,
But
you
yeah,
need 4 strings folded. Like
right.
you're gonna leave off 4 strings, 8 strings.
Yeah, it's a little bit
Like-
difficult to picture that, how that works exactly. It's really hard to picture these things, but right, let's just read the Ramah for a second. So it says in the Ramah, "Vehu adin bechol makom shetofer bechut shel min hatzitzit." So it says same applies to any place where he sews with a string, which is the same type as a tzitzit. The Chayeshin Hashem yikach oto chut bechut hatzitzit. We're also concerned he's going to use for tzitzit. So according to this, right, according to the Ramah, it's more like he's going to cut it off and use it, as we said,
Mm-hmm.
right? As you just said now. So let's read that again one more time, the Shulchan Aruch, okay? One more time. Make sure we got it right. Atofer Chatichat Beged, the Kanfet Talit. He's sewing, all right, some kind of a piece of clothing, piece of cloth onto the corners of the tzitzit. Also, what they do to make that rim, as we said, right? To make the rim, which the tzitzit is put there, placed there. If the talit is made out of silk, and he's also using silk threads, which are white, then we're concerned about that. That's Rashi, according to Rashi. Right, there should be no tefillah over there. שלא תהא שום תפילה למטה מגימל ולמעלה מקשר גודל. Right, so now let's look at the Mefarshim, right? Let's see, maybe there's the Mishnah Berurah here. What else we got here? We got Magen Avraham, and we got Taz. Okay, let's take a look at the Mishnah Berurah first. Maybe explains this whole issue, right? What you asked about. Let's see Mishnah Berurah. So it says Mishnah Berurah, the Sham hu makom hatzitzit, אבל כשתפילה למעלה מגימל בנות הקשר גדולה, אין לחוש שכהנו לציצית כמשהו. Right, so he says that, yeah, we're not really concerned that he's going to use it if it's not in that place. So it says it was already taught. It was already taught in chapter 11. That whole thing, right? So we have to go back there and see what it says there. But anyway, but then we have to ask about the Ramah, right? Why did the Ramah say any place?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's not. Maybe he doesn't agree with the Shulchan Aruch. You understand? Let's see. 1 second. Okay, so Mishnah Berurah, that's the way he explains it. Let's see. I'm going to look at all the Mefarshim here, the Magen Avraham and Taz, see what they say. Yeah, so Mishnah Berurah took the language of Magen Avraham. It's the same. Okay. Let's look at the Taz. See what the Taz says. Yeah, so Taz explains it a little more clearly. You see what it's saying? The Shamu Makom Tzitzit, because that he says that's the place of the Tzitzit. The Ate Lemit E. So therefore, that's going to cause him to err. In other words, the fact that it's there is going to make him think that he can do that. Got it? No?
I mean, he's suing.
In other words, he's associating the place with the mission. You understand? He's saying, since it's there in that place, I can use it for tzitzit.
You only got one string.
Huh?
You only have one string. What are you gonna use?
No, I'm gonna add more. You understand? That's what we're talking about.
So the scenario is he's cutting it.
Yeah.
And he's putting it in through the hole, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how is that? So it's well, third we said this is not kosher anyway because
That's what we said.
it wasn't spun up for tzitzit.
Okay, that's a different issue. Maybe he'll do it for tzitzit. Maybe he'll do it lishma. You know, that's we're not talking about that.
But
We're
then
not dealing with that
why is another area not a problem?
because he doesn't associate that area with tzitzit, so he won't use it.
He doesn't have.
We're talking about dumb people. Okay. Okay, that's one thing. Now, but that's one thing. Smart people don't do dumb things like this. You know. Okay, that's one issue. Now, so now let's deal with the Ramah, because the Ramah is saying apparently differently than that, right? So what is the Ramah saying? The Huadin bechom makom shetofer bechut shel min hatzitzit the chayshinan. So it's now we're concerned about everywhere. So let's see what the Mishnah Berurah says over here about this Ramah.
I would agree with the Ramah. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're doing it, you might.
Okay.
That's your mindset. You'll reuse it.
Okay, let's see. Right. So the truth is, you know, that the Ramah is bringing this from a different source, in Tumat edition. Okay. So in other words, according to Bet Yosef, the way we see in the Shulchan Aruch, this is the halacha. And then the Ramah brings a different opinion.
Which was not taken into consideration in Bet Yosef.
Seems so. Yeah. Yeah. Or, you know, it could be something else. It could be that the Ramah here is talking about a different issue. The Ramah is saying not that any place in a talit. He's talking about any kind of clothing. Maybe that's what he means. Any place. What does that mean? Any place? Any kind of clothing.
Oh.
Maybe that's what he's saying. Let's see the Mishnah Berurah again one more time. He'll explain that probably. Yeah, that sounds more correct because I don't really think there's a machloket here between the Ramah and the Maran. You know what I mean? There's no, we don't see any other approaches. So probably what he's saying is right that any other beged, you know, which is not a talit, same would apply there.
I think.
You know what I mean? That's pretty much the story. Okay, that's the way I see it. Okay, what's the time now? Okay, I guess we'll stop there. We did almost an hour. Okay, thank you for coming, ladies. Thanks for being patient.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you tomorrow, Bezat Hashem. We'll try to be earlier.
Thank you very much.
Okay, God bless everybody.
Amen.
Laila Tov.
Leila
I'm
tov.
sorry about missing the class last night. I apologize.
It's okay.
My fault.
All the best. Okay, that's good.